Welcome back, Padawans, to another episode of the Holocron Minute. And today, we're going to be discussing, again, the new design for the PS5. But a little different here. We're going to be discussing something that just came up today, honestly, and it definitely struck me as odd, and I want to discuss it because what is this? And I want to read this article. We're going to get in this, and we're going to see why exactly Sony is making this as an addition to, the disk drive for these new consoles, all right? But this is coming from VGC, VideoGamesChronicles.com, and this is by Jordan Midler. So he begins, he says, the new PS5's optional disk drive requires an internet connection to connect. Right? That's a little weird, right? So let's get into this article. Let's see what's going on, and let's see why it is requiring it, because maybe we'll find out something here, right? All right, but he continues. Ooh, I'm sorry, there was a little glitch there. The upcoming optional disk drive for the PlayStation 5 will require an internet connection to pair it to a console for the first time. See, look at that. The header got me, and there we go. A little bit in, you see exactly what it is, just to connect it for the first time. But let's continue. As spotted on the back of the box for the upcoming Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 PS5 Slim Bundle, small print confirms that players who purchase the new model with the optional drive will be required to connect to the internet when pairing it to a machine for the first time. It's likely that this is a security measure in order to ensure that the disk drive is a legitimate one and not a third party. However, it has raised some preservation concerns. Because the accessory will require an internet connection for verification, there will potentially come a time when the servers needed to verify the license will no longer be operational. It's possible that by the time this happens, Sony will release an update that removes the requirement, and in any case, it's likely to be many years in the future, long after the PS5 is Sony's main console. And then we've got somebody on Twitter, they wrote, this is from Charlie Intel on Twitter, they write, additional images of the Modern Warfare 3 PS5 Slim Bundle, back says 150 gigabytes minimum, also says 90 gigabytes plus download required to play. Bundle is available on November 10th. And then somebody else, this is John Linneman on Twitter again, he says, if this is the case, that is highly concerning and very strange. Hardware connectivity shouldn't be determined by a server that may not always be available, which I definitely agree with, and that's why I perked up when I saw this. But let's get back to the article here. The issue appears to stem from the way that both Sony and Microsoft pair their consoles as disk drives with their motherboards. As explained in a 2020 article by Wired, each disk drive has a daughter board and pairs with the console's motherboard, essentially creating a handshake unique to that specific pairing. In the article, Wired removed the disk drives from two launched PS5 consoles and swapped them over, but the consoles would refuse to recognize the other drive despite them being identical hardware. This may be partly due to Section 1201 of the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, which says it is illegal to, quote, circumvent a technological measure that effectively controls access to a copyrighted work, end quote, which in this case is the firmware on the disk drive. As such, in order to prevent piracy and also perhaps third-party repairs, Sony and Microsoft use the pairing method to ensure that each console can only work with the specific disk drive assigned to it, meaning users can't modify or replace the drive. The initial online connection requirement for the external PS5 drive then may be a security check designed to verify the drive then create the unique pairing between the drive and the console. Sony's new PlayStation 5 model will launch this November in the US before rolling out elsewhere over the following months. The new model will come with 1 terabyte storage for both editions. Unlike the current model, those who purchase the PS5 Digital Edition with it will be able to add a Blu-ray disc drive later, as it will also be sold separately for $79.99. A horizontal stand will be included with the new PS5 model. Also, a new vertical stand compatible with all PS5 models will be sold separately for $30. Quote, to address the evolving needs of players, our engineering and design teams collaborated on a new form factor that provides greater choice and flexibility, end quote, said SIE's Sid Schumann. Quote again, the same technology features that makes PS5 the best to play are packed into a smaller form factor, along with an attachable Ultra HD Blu-ray disc drive and a 1 terabyte SSD for more internal storage, end quote. Once inventory of the current PS5 model has sold out, the new model will become the only one available. All right, guys, that is all we've got from Mr. Midler over at VGC. I've got to say, like, VGC, they're doing the good work here, because this definitely gave us a lot of information to kind of chomp away at and figure out, okay, what are the requirements? Why are we having to do this? And is this beneficial to the gamer as a whole, right? Because in the grand scheme of things, as I've said before, these are companies, they are corporations. They do not care about you or me, right? So we need to not just put all of our eggs in this basket and just be hunky-dory with anything that happens. We have to be critical when stuff like this happens, and we need to take a look at it, and also take a look at it from multiple sides, right? Because they are a business after all. They have to, their main goal is to make money. So what is the reasoning for having this feature in there? How does that benefit Sony, and how does that benefit the gamer? Well, let's start with the gamer first, because that's the most important thing, right? That's what you're here for. We all are gamers if you're listening to me. So what is the benefit to us? And to me, I don't see a good benefit here, right? Like, to have this added on as a disk drive, right? You want to add that to it. You have to connect to the internet for the first time, whatever. At least it's only the first time. You know, if this was whenever you're using this, it's basically a digital console with a disk drive. You have to be on the internet to access anything, or you're shit out of luck. That's not cool. Now, that's not the case. It's just the first time. And again, they were talking about the verification, and that's really interesting to see that, you know, how they have, you know, had the disk drive talk to the motherboard in this sense in the Xbox and the PlayStation for the current edition consoles. That's very weird. I didn't know that was the case, that they've got, you know, this daughter board and it talks to the motherboard, and that's how they, you know, send information to each other and check that, you know, it's the correct disk drive that's supposed to be there. So with that being the case, okay, you can more see why they're having to do this here. You know, it doesn't seem like it's a thing that they want to do. It seems like it's something that they have to do, because I don't believe that the internals, at least like the motherboard in the sense, or anything like that, the CPU power, stuff like that, I don't know if it's been changed. I feel like for the most part, the internals are very similar to what we see, which means that it's going to have a similar, you know, footprint, a similar technological footprint as the current PS5 that we've got right now, which also means it still needs to verify this disk drive. So yes, I can understand you're going to have to be connected to the internet to get it verified. But, and the main thing that I always see, and that is always comes up into conversation when we're talking about always being online and always connected to the internet for games or anything else, internet's not going to be the best everywhere. That's the problem that we run into. Yes, here in the States, we do have pretty good internet, right? We've got pretty good Wi-Fi speeds, but that's not everywhere in the States. You know, there are some rural areas that do not get these kind of speeds, and if you're a gamer in those areas, and you don't have Wi-Fi, you don't have this connection, why even get the disk drive? Why even get a console at all? You know what I mean? So, like, this is the part that it's like, what if we don't have it? And it reminds me of, I think, Don Matrick. I think he was the old head of Xbox back when we were coming into the Xbox One generation. And when we're coming into that generation, this fool legit said,
they're going to understand what we're trying to create and how it links games and entertainment, the functionality of the box, some of the advantages that you get of having a box that is designed to use an online state. So that, to me, is a future-proof choice, and I think people could have arguably gone the other way if we didn't do it, and fortunately we have a product for people who aren't able to get some form of connectivity. It's called Xbox 360.
Right. So stick with 360, that's your message if you don't, like it?
If you have zero access to the internet, that is an offline device. I mean, seriously, when I read the blogs and thought about who's really the most impacted, there was a person who said, hey, I'm on a nuclear sub.
Right.
And I don't even know what it means to be on a nuclear sub, but I've got to imagine that it's not easy to get an internet connection.
basically you're saying, screw off. You're going to have to either deal with it or just get with the old tech, basically. And it's like, that's not how we should go about this situation, you know? And it scares me because it feels like this is something that is similar. You know what I mean? It feels like this is something that, like, okay, we'll have to wait and see. But again, this is not always online. That's the caveat. It's not always online. So it's just that first initial boot up. And if you can get a good connection then you're right as rain, you're good to go. Now, on the consumer side, or not consumer, but on the corporate side, how is this going to help them and benefit them? Well, as I just said, it seems like this is a workaround. It doesn't seem like this is something that Sony wanted to do, but something that they had to do based on how this console was designed from the jump before we even knew about the PS5. You know what I mean? So I can see that, like, listen, we want to do this detachable disk drive. It's going to make our production on each and every console go down because we're only making one SKU and we don't have to worry about doing a digital and then a physical edition of these, right? So yes, cost is going to go down, but we also have the disk drive available for you. So if you want to, you can add this on. And yes, you do have to, because we are adding this in here, you're going to have to do something for us. And that means, make sure that you've got good internet. So then that way we can verify that this is the correct thing. And then you're good to go. Now, my only other rebuttal to this is that should really, in the grand scheme of things, that should only be for the digital version. Because that's the only console that you're actually having to add a disk drive to. You know what I mean? It's not coming bundled with a disk drive. It's not, in the grand scheme of things, that the new digital edition will have never had a disk drive attached to it ever, right? In the grand scheme of things, you would think. So why then, for the one that's bundled in, that I would assume is already going to come together with the disk drive in it, why would they not do that already? Verify it at Sony, at Sony HQ, at the warehouse or whatever, wherever they're putting these together. Why don't you verify it then? That way your consumer base doesn't have to do that if they're getting the bundle because they want a disk drive out the gate. You know what I mean? It's like, it just seems like there are better ways to go about this than making every single person have to connect to the internet. And again, it sounds really weird for me saying that because I've had Wi-Fi since as long as I can remember. You know what I mean? Like, we've been here in Texas since 2007, and pretty much that entire time until now I've had Wi-Fi, and I've had decent Wi-Fi because we stream. That's how we have gotten my media for the past, 16 years? Give or take, So because of that, because Wi-Fi has been such an ingrained thing in my life, I always will have Wi-Fi, so I'm not worried. Me specifically, I'm not worried about that. And also, I'm not getting this console anyway, so in the grand scheme of things, I really don't care. But I care about the other people who are looking to get a PlayStation 5 right now, right? I've got a buddy at work. He still is looking for a PlayStation 5 and really wants to get it because he wants to play that God of War, baby. Anyway, so I really feel like there could have been another route that we could have gone into. You know what I mean? It does seem like it's something that needed to be done, but I feel like we could have found a better way to get this done. Now, I do want to touch on the $80 disc drive. Now, we've already touched on that before when we were talking about the announcement of this console, but the $80 disc drive, bro, that's a lot. That's a lot for a disc drive. And I will say this. So, why is it that it's $80? If you buy the disc edition, it's $450. If you buy the digital, if you buy the digital edition, it's $450. The disc edition is $500. So if you want to turn your digital console into a disc console, you're going to be spending more money to do that than just going out and getting the disc already. Getting the disc bundled in it. You're going to spend, what is that, $30 extra, I believe? Yeah. So I just don't understand that. I really don't understand the price hike either. And Rich from Review Tech USA, he said it perfectly. He said, this console is already cheaper to make for Sony. So why are we now bumping up the price of their discount console when if you want to make it a disc console, you're going to have to spend more money than if you were to just buy a disc already? That's a little shady. That's a little shady, and we're going to call it out because, again, corporations are going to corporate. You know what I mean? So we have to be here, and yes, as a gamer, yes, I love my PlayStation, and I love these games that come out for the PlayStation. But Sony doesn't give a shit about the fact that I love their console. You know what I mean? They don't care. Jim Ryan doesn't care. And by the way, we might have to talk about Jim Ryan and his departure from PlayStation, guys, because it's real. Anyway, so that's where we're at here, guys. That's pretty much it. The disc drive is you're going to have to connect to the internet for your first time whenever you're connecting it to whatever console you get. And, hopefully you have a good connection when you do so. So then that way it's a seamless process and you don't have to worry about it again. Because that's my hope, right? We don't want this to be more stressful, more tedious just to play the games that we love, right? But guys, I have been your host, as always, Jedi Master Ren. And I will see you next time in the halls of the Jedi Gaming Academy. May the Force be with you.